All right, Calc 1, welcome to Yak Math Videos. Here is the answers to your quiz review. Remember, tomorrow, and only tomorrow, you can use all of your notes, anything you have in paper for this review units quiz. Anyway, folks, the answers to number 1 are as follows. Make sure you square this first, then you can multiply. I would take care of this inside. 10 divided by 5 is 2. What has more x's, top or bottom? The bottom has 6 over 2 or 3 more. What has more y's, top or the bottom? The bottom has 5/3 more. Square both. 2 squared is 4. Power to a power, you just multiply. There's your answer. Again, pause this anytime you need to see an answer for longer. Kind of have to move through this a little bit. Both of these terms have an x squared in common, so factor it out. So when you factor, you're kind of dividing it out there. Bring down that sign, so factor out a -5 so you can make this into a +8. This matches this, so we can put them together. X squared minus 5, x plus 8 is how it factors. What multiplies to 72? Because it's negative, differs by 1, 9 and 8. Middle term is negative, so the bigger factor is negative. X minus 9, x plus 8. Just simply distribute and combine like terms on A. Take your time doing that. You know, first, outer, inner, last, or just use the trick. Score the first term. Double the inner product. 28x, double it is 56. Don't forget that sign is a negative. Square 7 or -7, doesn't matter. You get 49. On number 4, this factors to be x plus 8, x minus 2. This factors to be x plus 2x minus 2. X minus 2's cancel, is give you this answer. Guys, 4B was probably the hardest one you had on your first homework assignment. Factor out the denominator here, x minus 4, x plus 4. In order to add or subtract fractions, you need the exact same denominator. This guy has the x minus 4, but it needs up top and down below the x plus 4. Now both fractions have the x plus 4 and the x minus 4. Just FOIL here, and then combine like terms with the left side, and this is your answer. Guys, on 5A, add 2, get rid of that 2 in the middle by adding it to all 3 sides, really all 3 regions. And then divide everything by 3. This is an acceptable answer, or you can write it in interval notation just like that. 2x minus 1 has got to be less than or equal to 9, or 2x minus 1, and it could be an and statement, we'll see. It's got to be greater than or equal to -9. And we do have numbers that are less than 5 and greater than -4. So you can write it like this, or you can leave your answer like that. For now, that's fine. All right, probably one of the harder questions we've looked at so far is this one right here, x squared minus 11x plus 18 greater than 0. Just pretend like you were solving it if it was set equal to 0. Just look for the roots. That's 2 and 9. On a number line, if I started towards negative infinity, the first answer I would run up to is 2. All right, and I would go 2 to 9, then 9 towards infinity. A test number between negative infinity and 2 is 0. And I'm really just testing if that statement right here in factored form is greater than 0, like it gave me here. If I plug in 0, I get 18 is greater than 0, which is a true statement. If I use the test number of 3 in the second interval, plug it in there like we did in class, -6 greater than 0, that's a false statement. And if I plug in, let's say 10 right there, and for x, I get 8 is greater than 0, that's a true statement. My true statements are a part of my solution sets. So any number between negative infinity and 2, not including both, and any number between 9 and infinity, not including both, makes that statement true. All right, folks, moving on. Next part here, we are solving. There's your answer. That one shouldn't be too bad. You're just factoring on 6b. Again, pause it whenever you need to. 6c here, folks. Add 3, then divide by 4. Square both sides. You get 20 over 3. You're factoring just like you did in 6b, only the way to get x to the 4th is to have x squared times x squared. So you got to take the square root. Don't forget about plus or minus. This is going to have 4 solutions because it's x to the 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your 4 solutions. Guys, plug in this is a piecewise. Was this the piecewise one? It was the piecewise function. So f of -7 goes in the first equation. Goes in the first equation right there. And then we get negative 21. Guys, f of negative 5 goes in that same first equation. Negative 2 goes in that second equation. And I use plug in 0 into that second equation as well. And lastly, I plug 6 into the last equation. All right, it's all about figuring out what interval does my number fall in. All right. Number 8, g of 4. Again, you're given that equation, 4x plus 3 gives you that. And then you get 19. You plug it into the f equation. F of 19, 231. For b, you do f of negative 3 first. So you do, negative 3 squared minus 7 times negative 3 plus 3. You get 33. Then you plug that into the outer equation. If you look on your sheet, that was g. 4 times 33 plus 3 is 135. That's 135. And then on c, you just write what f of x is. It is x squared minus 7x plus 3. And you plug that in for x in the g equation. So instead of writing 4 times a number, you're substituting that equation in. Use distribution, combine like terms. Again, take your time, pause it whenever you need to. Write a line that is parallel, write the equation of a line which is both parallel and perpendicular to that line at that point. The slope there is 3, so a parallel line has the same slope, so y equals 3x plus b. I'm plugging negative 9 in for x, 2 in for y, and that's the equation I get. If my initial slope was 3, then the opposite reciprocal, my perpendicular line, would have a slope of negative 1/3. Y equals negative 1/3 x plus b. Plug 2 in for y, negative 9 in for x. You get that answer. State all vertical asymptotes. Make sure you factor the top and the bottom just in case something cancels. At the bottom, x minus 5, x minus 2 equals 0. You get x equals 2 and 5. None of those canceled. They're both vertical asymptotes. On b, that factors would be x minus 6, x plus 5. Set them both equal to 0. You get x equals 6, x equals negative 5, are vertical asymptotes. And on c, the bottom factors, and you have a cancellation. So that x plus 2, if you set it equal to 0, x equals negative 2 is a whole, whereas x equals negative 4 is the vertical asymptotes. Find the inverse first. Instead of writing f of x, you write y equals. Then you interchange x and y there. Add 5 to both sides, multiply by both sides by 2/3. Distribute that. Remember, it's f inverse, not y equals 2/3 x plus 10/3. All right, y equals the right side. Switch x and y. Add 2 and then square both sides. So you're going to add 2 first. You're going to have x plus 2. Then you do the squaring. And then at the end, you subtract 5. X plus 2 in parentheses squared minus 5. If you wanted to FOIL this and subtract 5 at the end, you could do that. All right, so you're going to write each radian in degree mode. Just simply multiply by 1/8 over pi. So basically, you're getting rid of the pi and just multiplying 7/3 by 180. Get 420 degrees. Here are your answers for all of those. It's pretty self-explanatory. Take that fraction, multiply it by 180. All right, on 13, you're basically, if you want to turn a degree into a pi radian, you're going to attach pi at the end. You're just going to divide your degree by 180. All right, write it in simplest fraction form. Okay, guys, on 14, I gave you the sine of an angle that is in the first quadrant. Find the tangents. So, we just got to figure out that horizontal length. Use the Pythagorean theorem. You get root 40 or 2 root 10. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. I'll let you write your answer like that. Guys, you're looking for something in the second quadrant that has a first off, it has a cosine and adjacent over hypotenuse of negative 2 over 5. That 2 is the negative because you're going to the left on your xy axis. Use Pythagorean theorem to get root 21. Now if I'm looking for sine opposite over hypotenuse would be root 21 over 5. All right, folks, on this last one, you are in the third quadrant. Tangent is 7 over 4. Opposite over adjacent, when you're going down, that's a negative 7. You're going to the left, that's a negative 4. The reason there's no negative here because a negative divided by negative is a positive. Make sure in the third quadrant that your x and y displacement both negative. Pythagorean theorem gives you root 65, and cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse, negative 4 over root 65. All right, 15, the way to get rid of e is to attach natural log to both sides. Just give the exact answer. So 3x is natural log of 5. X is natural log of 5 over 3 on b. Divide both sides by 2 first, then attach e as a base. Attach e, so we would have this part first. Natural log of x plus 1 is 4. To get rid of natural log, attach e as a base there, e as a base there. That exponent, x plus 1, comes on down, equals e to the 4th, and just subtract 1. All right, so on c, divide both sides by 3 first. So you have e to the x plus 1 is 15 divided by 3, 5. Then attach natural log to both sides. That x plus 1 comes on down, subtract 1. That's your answer. Change of base just simply says log of this number over log of the base. Type that in your calc, round it to the nearest hundredth, I believe. There are your answers for those 3. All right, and lastly, go to the last page here. 17, determine the domain. You simply set what is inside equal to 0. You can take the square root of 0, nothing lower. All right, I can have any value between a -6 and a +6. That would give me a number I could type in the calc and not get an error. All right, we have brackets because you can't have the square root of 0. There's the answer for 17b. Just set that equal to 0. You get plus or minus 10. Anything between -10 and +10, acceptable domain value, including both. Sine inverse gives you, if you type in sine inverse of something, you can either have a fourth quadrant, first quadrant value because it's positive in the first quadrant. So I'm looking for the cosine of some angle in the first quadrant that has a sine of 2/5. Pythagorean theorem gives you a root 21 there, so its cosine is root 21 over 5. Cosinverse, if you typed in cosinverse of, say, -1/2, it would give you, what is that, 120 degrees, it should be, yeah, 120, which is in the second quadrant. Cosinverse gives you first quadrant if it's positive, second quadrant if it's negative. So find the sine, do the Pythagorean theorem, you get root 40 or 2 root 10. So you can say root 40 over 7 or 2 root 10 over 7. Sine and tangents, both, if it's negative, you get fourth quadrant values. If it's positive, first quadrant values. A negative sine means I put it in the fourth quadrant, -1/3, so the adjacent, use Pythagorean theorem, root 8 or 2 root 2. Tangent would be opposite over adjacent. You can write it like that or like that. That's fine for now. All right, f of x is 3x minus 2. So f of 3x minus 2 means in for x, you're just going to write 3x minus 2 right there, distribute, combined. G of x is 4 minus 5x, so in for x right there, you're going to write 4 minus 5x and distribute. That's your answer. All right, difference quotient. So f of 2 plus h, just plug 2 plus h in right there. You're going to square it, then double it, and subtract 3. Here's the work for that. You get this right here. And then subtract f of 2, so plug 2 in for x there. You get 5. Notice how these cancel again. H squared plus 8h divided by h. The h there, cancel. You're left with h plus 8. All right, folks, so those are the answers for your review for your open note quiz tomorrow. Yak Math Videos signing out.